Hi everyone, I'm Sheryl, and I'll be talking about my analysis of hashtag boycott Bollywood on Twitter. I'll be looking at how the movement was operated for the most part of 2022, what kind of users were involved in the discourse, and what kind of themes emerged from the movement. Okay. So I'll just do a general overview. So calls for bans or boycotts on movies are not a new phenomena. They have happened on Twitter as far as 2014, where Amir Khan's PK was received some backlash against the portrayal of Hindu religion in the movie. And more recently, it was relaunched by SSR's death and Aryan Khan's drug case. Although over the past year, it has really grown in scale and it has garnered attention from media houses, from actors, and even politicians in some case. And while this movement was initially framed as a fight against nepotism and the declining quality of films, my analysis actually shows that it contains ample messaging that has Islamophobia and misogynistic elements in it. So I'll just talk about the data for a bit. Uh, the data has been collected using the official Twitter API, and you can roughly part it into two groups. Although boycott Pathan is a subset of boycott Bollywood. So I started with 1st August as the start date because following that month, a lot of major box office releases were going to happen. And I concluded the data collection on 17th January because that collected all the Pathan related activity that happened. So I used tweets that contain the hashtag boycott Bollywood to do a general study of trends, coordinated activity, and what the community looks like. And then I use tweets that use just boycott Pathan to do a concentrated study about what sort of themes are there and how Islamophobia and misogyny develops in the movement. So this is an overall activity timeline of the movement. This uses hashtag boycott Bollywood as the data. What you will see is that most of the peaks here are in line with main releases with movies. But what is interesting to note here is that a lot of these peaks occur a week or two before the release of these movies. And the fact that it happens before the release suggests that this is a highly collusive community where this is like a coordinated event. So next, I profile the user base a little bit. And for this, I uncover two sort of major groups of accounts. First, I look at influential accounts. So for this, I constructed a retweet network with users as nodes and the retweet relationship forming the edge between these nodes. After this, I applied a network statistic called eigenvector centrality, and I filtered out top 30 accounts. Basically, these 30 accounts play an important role in the flow of information in the community. So the overall user set is quite huge. It's around 100,000 unique users on Twitter. So the top 30 accounts were manually analyzed. And here I found that the largest set was found by SSRians, which are basically fans of Sushant Singh Rajput. And they really started campaigning in 2020. And then the second largest set was right-wing influencers. Another contrasting set was found, and it was ghost accounts, which are basically users who have zero followers and virtually no audience to tweet to. And it's interesting to look at because they could exist for broadly two reasons. One would be to either pad the numbers in tweets and retweets, and the other one could be they are trying to piggyback off the popularity of the movement to get famous off of it. But when we look at the dates at which these accounts were created, these are really recent accounts. And we also see a sudden spike in August 2022. And it suggests that the former might be more likely where they're just there on Twitter to pad the numbers and tweets. So a major objective of the study is to look at what kind of themes emerge from the movement. And here you'll see that I have mapped the frequency of tweets that fall into three major categories of nepotism, Islam, and Hinduism. So this was done using a bag of words, and then I just looked at how many tweets use these bag of words over a weekly period. So what you will see that is interesting here is that around December, there is an there is an increase in activity that talks about Hinduism and Islam. So while Hinduism has been a topic of discourse throughout the movement, over time nepotism does decrease in quantity, and the conversation shifts toward religion. And what's interesting is that this happens around the time of where most of the campaigning is directed towards boycott Pathan. So December is the time where boycott Pathan calls were made the most. So I wanted to study this in depth, and for this, I created 5 categories in which I could code tweets into. Pretty self-explanatory. We have religion, and this is then further broken down into whether the tweets appeal to a Hindu-centric idea or an anti-Muslim idea. Then there's nationalism and culture, personalized attacks. These are mostly towards certain film stars. There's misogyny, which includes moral policing, use of misogynistic language. There's the final category is conspiracy theories and SSR related content. This is claims that have not been verified that sort of link Bollywood industry to other organizations. So from this, I created 2 sets. One was highly retweeted tweets in my data set, and then another set of random tweets. And there are 2 key findings to look at here. One was that when you look at just a highly retweeted set, around 82.5% tweets had some sort of propaganda in them. So if they qualified for either of these categories, they were marked as propaganda tweets. As opposed to random
You
sample.
have 3 minutes left.
Okay, as opposed to a random sample that had roughly half the amount of propaganda. And the takeaway there is that subcategories where there's a thematic intersection with another area of interest, these sort of tweets go viral a lot more. Other than that, I ran some t-tests that show that when there is some sort of propaganda in the tweets garner more likes and retweets as compared to tweets that don't have that. And on average, these are like as high as twice the number of tweets and retweets. So a better look into Islamophobia in tweets, and this is where the lines sort of blur between religion, nationalism, and culture, where they will either frame their argument as saying that as against the religion of the main character in the film, or they'll portray the entire film as anti-Hindu. Another interesting use of language is the term Urdu, which was popularized by the movement, where they suggest that Urdu speakers are somehow incompatible with India and nationalism. Another look into misogyny, there's a few kinds of misogyny. One is that is directed towards Deepika Padukone, and this had high amounts of body shaming, slut shaming, and moral policing in it. Then there's another category which intersects with Islamophobia again, and there is the concept of love jihad, and they make references to how Shahrukh is a Muslim and he's paired with Deepika, and how this promotes love jihad in our country. And then lastly, there's also hashtags and some language that is framed in a way that is misogynistic. There's swears that are deeply rooted in misogyny that actually even went viral at a point. And then other hashtags that are accompanied by images that objectify women. So I'll just conclude the work. So there are 2 main findings. One is that if within the movement there are themes that run along it, which are basically promoting Hindu nationalism, and where the idea is to integrate religion with culture and nationalism. And then the other thing is that you would find studies that criticize the Bollywood industry on their portrayal of gender, caste, and religion. But if you look at the boycott Bollywood community, they actually depend on similar narratives to spread their agenda. So some suggested future work, I think the changes in narrative can be studied along with the change in the social network of the movement to see if this change is organic or if it's influenced by certain groups. And I think the role of fringe communities could also be very important in the movement. That's it. Thank you.